Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome to this webinar about driver behavior. It's not an entirely new topic, but analyzing driver behavior using both car data and cell phone data is a very interesting area that we want to explore further today. Some of you might have worked with it a bit. For some people it's more new. We do hope that it will be interesting for all of you, no matter if you have run into any of the pitfalls in the area, getting people to share their data or to find use cases or effects that you can actually measure. We will dive into all of that. This is what we're going to look at today: why we measure driver behavior, who we are doing the presentation, insights from the research, and how we do it from our perspective, some use cases and next steps, how you can draw benefits from this and what would be the next thing to do. And then we will end it with a Q&A in the end. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please look at the speech bubbles in your top right corner and put your question there. You can also vote for other people's questions if you find them interesting and want to prioritize them or want us to prioritize them. My name is Elin Enquist. I'm from WirelessCar. I will be your moderator today. With me I have Peter Håkansson from WirelessCar and Pernilla Arnell from Autoliv, who will present themselves shortly. But before we begin, I'd like to ask our speakers why they think this is an important question. Why should we measure driver behavior? Peter, do you want to start?
Yes, please. Thanks, Elin. And hello, everyone. I would just like to say first that I work within the product management team and strategy team within WirelessCar. And for the last 2 years, I have become somewhat dedicated into understand more what's improving the driving behavior and what's the impacts of measuring driving behavior and what kind of consequences would that give us. And we know, for instance, that during this time, during this hour that we have this webinar, we know that about 300 people will die on the roads. So of course, the safety for the drivers is one big issue why we should measure driver behavior. But there are others as well, more business-driven perspective, like getting better control of what drives cost and how can we impact or how we can reduce the impact on the environment. So there are 3 very good reasons to why we should measure the driver behavior. Over to you, Pernilla.
Thank you so much. And just reinforcing what Peter just said is that accidents and saving lives based on driving behavior constitutes of 20 to 30% of that we can say 20 to 30% on accident and cost only by measuring safe driving behavior. I'm Pernilla Arnell. I work as sales director at Autoliv and very active in developing new ways of measuring safe driving behavior together with WirelessCar. There are a number of examples, as Elin said in the beginning, that has been trying to prove and do this kind of measurements before. Since I started working with it, I'm a bit surprised that it hasn't taken off. And one of the goals of this presentation today is to inspire you around that we think that the timing now is quite right. When trying to understand why it hasn't taken off before, it's of course interesting to look at other cases, as for example in the US and the UK, where user-based insurance has been on the table for quite some time and with quite good measurements. Why it hasn't taken off in other markets? There are reasons for that. Margins for insurance is said to be lower. The integration in the car has been considered expensive and not least tiring to maintain and operate, with a number of support cases coming in answering up to that you're measuring my driving behavior. It's considered to be a bit a sensitive matter. But I think, and I'll show you some figures on that, we think that parameter as such is now starting to change, and not possibly altogether, but some part of it having also to do with the pandemic, and that we're getting used to changing behavior in the sake of security and safety. I know that some of you listening in from the OEM business have started to run tests on this. Some say it's difficult to get the customers to use it. Others say they've tested it but haven't been able to change the behavior in the way that they thought was evident. We think the timing is right, the technique is there, and now we don't need to choose going with the vehicle and telematics or with the strength of the mobile. You could have both. And over to the next slide. And here we come to one of the reasons why I see that it's not that picky about sharing data. During the months I've been working in selling and talking about safe driving behavior, I have not once heard from an end user that they are cautious about the privacy here. Many think that it is for the cause of the benefit of themselves and others. And it's more the legal reasoning about privacy that is the main obstacle that you need to overcome in order to implement these kind of services. We have changed behaviors during the last 7 months. Some of the behaviors we'd like to move away from when coming out of the pandemic. Others, maybe some that we would like to continue with. And I would say it just makes sense, considering the benefits we just talked about initially. And this seminar is also an invitation for you to take part in public learning experience to be followed up long after this session. We have, during the last years at Autoliv, developed this solution, and we've been learning a lot, not only on the techniques, but also on changing behavior. Saving more lives and saving money in accidents is far too important not to be a common challenge for the whole ecosystem. Over to you, Elin.
Thank you so much, both of you. So there are clear benefits. The timing is right, and we do have the technique to do it, especially now that we can combine car data and mobile phone data. So these are some good reasons why we should look more into this. This whole webinar, is based on a collaboration between these two companies. And before we go further, I'd like to present the collaboration a bit more and some more about the companies involved. So first, let's play the movie.
Did you know that it takes approximately 66 days to break a habit? Autoliv and WirelessCar's new joint collaboration is aimed at changing behavior behind the wheel and ultimately saving more lives and improving society. Together, one of the leading providers of digital services for cars, and a worldwide leader in both automotive safety systems and of digital safety solutions, will analyze data from both the smartphone and the vehicle in order to create smart mobility solutions. Solutions that will improve driver behavior, decrease accidents, and improve safety. Find out more about Autoliv and WirelessCar's collaboration in their co-authored Saving Lives Through Connected Cars white paper.
In the film, white paper was mentioned, and if you would like to read that, and I really encourage you to do that, just reach out to me or to Pernilla, so then we will send it to you directly. I'm so proud to work together with Autoliv in this area. Our collaboration for higher safety will contribute to new services. By combining the car data and the smartphone data, it will create new insights that will be useful for both fleet managers and private car owners. We have chosen to work with Autoliv because of their well-known knowledge about safety in the automotive industry. And combining that knowledge together with the knowledge within WirelessCar in producing, delivering, and developing digital services for the automotive industry, I strongly believe that we can deliver a driving behavior tool that is really useful. On the next slide, I will tell you just a short story about WirelessCar and what do we bring to the customers. For those of you who doesn't know that much about WirelessCar, I can tell you that we have global reach. We have services launched in more than 75 markets. Our headquarters is in Gothenburg, and we have legal entities in both US and China. We have a 100% focus in the automotive industry. And today we have a little bit more than 6 million connected active vehicles on roads. And we add one more vehicle every 30 seconds. So the business is growing and we are aiming for 100 million connected vehicles. Quite ambitious, but we will get there. We have some experiences. We have been in the market for a little bit more than 20 years. We have been working with 13 different programs. We have 500 dedicated co-workers contributing. And we have understood that collaboration is a key knowledge here, a key way to work in order to deliver an end-to-end solution with a great customer experience in the end. And therefore, it's important for us to work together with Autoliv in order to deliver a good end-to-end solution when it comes to driver behavior. And many customers choose to work with WirelessCar because of our speed. When time to market is important and our ideal way of working is important, they like to work with us because of that. Pernilla, would you like to give us a glance of what kind of companies Autoliv?
Please, Peter, yes. And for those who are not that familiar with Autoliv, we are a global company focused on providing safe services, safe mobility services in this case. We have an approximate 43% market share in regards of airbags and safety belts. So we have a good foundation for knowledge in developing this knowledge into new services. And that is a journey that we just started, and we are on our way also that we have developed a department just to bring new services to the market who's protecting the more than 50% of the car and accidents and lives killed outside the vehicle, the so-called vulnerable road users. So to coming an array of interesting services in this area where we see a great potential in aligning safety services, connected safety services with physical products. We have a strong history of a triple helix collaboration culture within Autoliv that we think is essential for bringing these values to the market. We mean that we're actively working with governments, agencies, universities, OEMs, and others to produce the world's best safety solution. Over to you, Ellen.
thank you both of you for this presentation about the companies behind this research. We got a question about where the white paper can be retrieved. And in the end of this presentation, you'll find contact details where you can find the white paper and also get to test the app that we're going to talk about soon. So we'll get to that. I hope that's the answer for now. Now that we know who is behind this research, let's move on to see what research is out there about driver behavior. It's a huge topic, so we'll just brush on the surface a little bit about what it is, what risks there are, attitudes, and how you can measure it. I will hand over to you again, Pernilla, so we can dive into this topic.
Thank you so much. And we're starting with a slide, just choosing 3 slides here to give you just a glance of statistics behind what we're working on here. Everyone possibly remembers from driver school that left turns is not a good thing, and that's also illustrated in our score. The reason for all the roundabouts around us, the figure of 30% reduced cost in claims when doing improvements in safe driving behavior, we already mentioned in the beginning. But thirdly, I've been a bit more, so thanks to our researchers, I've gotten personally interested in the matter of distraction. We know and are fed with a lot of data showing that the mobile is a big distraction in the car, and it sure is, and that is for sure illustrated in the score as such. But distraction, it can be so many more things. We know every one of us what stresses us or makes us mostly frustrated in traffic situations. Is it passengers, pets, dropping something on the floor or something else? We'd be curious in this seminar to understand what is your most stressful moment in the car. So by warming up the Q&A feed here, we'd like you to share with us your personal example. So please go ahead and give us some insights to our data here. For the next slide, I'm coming to the right to and survey. As I said in the beginning, we're trying to come behind the curtain of the reason why we don't all already drive around with safe driving applications in our mobile phones. We're measuring so many other things, and we have the trust economy with Airbnb and others that we're usually and very often measuring each other and putting remarks on everything. But why not when driving? So we tried to do a survey in India, Sweden, and United States, where we're trying to understand what's going on in our heads when we're discussing safe driving behavior. What are the attitudes, and what do you consider as a person being safe driving? If starting to use a safe driving application, what kind of tools would you like to be coached on, and in what way? And what kind of rewards would be interesting to you if you're going to enter into some kind of loyalty program? As for sure, the user-based insurance use cases are the ones that are out there, but we can see now that many insurance companies are also looking at implementing these services just for the cause of doing something actively to decrease claims and accidents. So what this slide specifically is showing, it's very small text, but we'll be happy to share all this data with you if we come into a closer dialogue. But we're up for a challenge. No matter where in the world we are, we can measure around 90% saying that they already see themselves as safe drivers. And I think personally that this is a reason why many have been hesitant in going into the personal freedom zone of the when driving your car. But it's something that I think we're all prepared to step away from, understanding what the benefits are. With the next slide, I'd like to take you to the heart of the solution. It's our scoring algorithm. And we're talking around this. We have had a lot of positive feedback around that we have a very open dialogue around what our score looks like and how it's constituted. It's all about choosing the right components. to set it in the right context, to test and validate and get the right thresholds to ensure that we're measuring the right things. We have seen a lot of examples of nice aggregated data services out there. For everyone working with data analytics, we know that I think we have also all been a bit blown away with the capabilities of AI and machine learning and aggregating volumes of interesting data. And it is for sure very interesting to see what you can do with it. What I think some have forgot is that at least 50% of the recipe constitutes of having right subject matter experts aligning with the data scientist to evaluate if we're actually showing and measuring the right things. Together with WirelessCar, I'm sure that we have the right subject matter experts to continuously working on improving the world's best research-driven score. Over to you, Elin.
Thank you. A lot of interesting research behind, and having the insights from research is surely a good point to start when looking at driver behavior. So now we're going to move on to how do we do it? How do we work with this to be able to generate the benefits for you afterwards? And I will hand over to you again, Pernilla.
Thank you. And I'm just taking it then. I built up for the algorithm and the scoring and such. And as you can see, we're today measuring turns, speed, distraction, and smoothness. And I'm just curious, Elin, are we getting in any answering on the distraction part?
No, not yet. So please don't be shy. No one tell us your distractions.
Share what way they like to be, they feel is the most dangerous when they are driving. Next slide, please. I have a problem in clicking the slide change. And of course, this is just only to show you that we have statistics and continuously working on improving improving the score as such. And on the next slide, I'll just give you an introduction to the positive things about integrating the vehicle and the smartphone data. We have up till now, before the partnership with WirelessCar, only been showing a mobile solution. There are clear and evident benefits with this. It's vehicle agnostic. We often drive more than one car. And in the new economy, we're most probably not even owning our own car. So there are clear benefits here. Most people have access to it. So from a democratized safety perspective, it's obvious that if we want to reach out to many and not only for some people who uses certain cars, it's evident that we need to bring it to the masses in different ways. But of course, there are clear benefits with the actual integration in the car. It's built for it, the sensors are built for it, and we get another exactness in some areas. So with this solution, the combination with wireless and Autoliv, you do not need to choose. You get the best of both worlds. And Peter will now talk more about the value car data can provide from a safety perspective.
Yes, what vehicle data do we use to increase safety and decrease the total cost of ownership? Well, vehicles are a complex device that move around on streets, highways, tunnels, and remote areas. And when it comes to measure the driver behavior, trip management is one crucial area. So the trip is not an out-of-the-box service that we can take from the vehicle. We need to be supporting the merge of trips. We need to be able to split trips, and we need to be able to delete trips. And scalability, a large number of trips should be handled in a secure way, always with a high respect for privacy. And here we can see different vehicle data that we use. Position and journey is our product that resolves the issues about the trip management. That's a product, it's not out of the box from the vehicle. We can also combine with different car data. Of course, it's dependent on the car model and what kind of TCU the vehicle have. It could be of interest, for example, to see what kind of correlation do we have between tire pressure and great driving behavior, or is there any connections between the need for service alerts and bad driving behavior? That's something for us to explore later on. But all these data, we also need to harmonize in order to compare different models to each other and different fleet to each other. And if we look on the next slide, I will show the high-level architectural overview. If you start to the right, where we pick the data from the vehicle, and we put the vehicle data into the cloud of WirelessCar. And together with that data, or together with the smartphone data, we deliver that to the Autoliv cloud, and Autoliv will do their magic and bring back the safety score to WirelessCar. And then we will visualize data in the fleet portal if it's in a B2B concept and or in a driver app. So that's the high-level architectural overview. And how about the validations, Pernilla?
Yes, for sure. The reason why we can be a bit confident around this solution is, of course, the support of the validations we do. We have the opportunity to test both in clear sled tests. If you saw on the very first slide, we have a great potential of doing these tests all over the world. We have test cars that can be driven out on the roads, and we also actually have a driving simulator. All this following clear research principles. In our research centers, we're always continuously investigating more ways of transforming safety knowledge to digital services. And things we're working on right now is something I will tell you a little bit more about, coaching and the reason behind that, why that is important. Another one is crash detection, where we're seeing increasingly good results. So if you're interested in any of these areas, don't hesitate to reach out to us after this session. We would be happy to understand more about what's in your mind on this area. So the next couple of slides, I'll show you some examples of results that we've been doing. This one coming from a pilot case with a Swedish insurance company, where we for 7 months been driving with at least 250 drivers. And it's not the best looking slide in the world, but I'd like you to see the real graphical curves of the development of the individual drivers when starting, and showing you that in the very beginning, you see in the first month, a clear increase in scoring. However, when we come to the next slide, we can see that after 2 months, we start to come in a not happening so much phase. And that is when the coaching is needed. The coaching is needed to continuously change the behavior. So the last months, we've been very eager and understanding in what way you would like to be coached. And with the AI machine learning built in, we can decide what kind of driver you are and adjust the coaching principles accordingly. On the next slide, we could see a summary of the results of this pilot. So sorry for the previous slide I saying wrongly. It's the right figure is 46% in general improved their safe driving behavior. But what I see increasingly and even more important, that 84% say they've seen a change in their safe driving behavior, and 65% saying they raised their awareness of safe driving. There have been interesting moments here. We've tested coaching principles also here, but I think this slide shows very clearly also my own experience when starting using the application. I got very clear indication that I was using my mobile just too much, and I am overspeeding at several occasions. So after very, very short time, you get a much better understanding of what your weaknesses are. And another one on this slide is the driver motivation, where we did the earlier end user survey. We could actually see that there are true altruistic motives for people when wanting to learn to drive safer. So many parameters here that we also coming back to the timing, why we think it's a good timing to start to launch these kind of services now. Coming into the coaching part on the next slide, we have tried to develop different ways. We haven't really decided on all parameters here yet. We'd like to do that in close collaboration with our customers. And just showing you some examples that we worked on experiments of raising the awareness in certain parts of sensitive areas for safety when driving. So this could be used in different formats in the app or as an e-learning in onboarding a project with us. In the next slide, you can see what we're having right now in the solution, which is, of course, a scoring of each and every trip. We also have a leaderboard, which updates weekly, but of course, the most important thing is the trend line, your personal trend line, so you can see if you improve and how you can go about improving even more. On the right, we have something that we're very proud of that we call Driving Avatar Road Coach Yoda. And this will and might be the companion for you in the future when driving with the safety score. In the next slide, we can see some interesting personal reflections from people starting to use the application, which goes quite well in my own experience, that you might be at first a bit skeptic about using an app to track your driving behavior, but quite quickly you can see that it raises your awareness and that you after that definitely raise more attention or pay more attention to the principles when driving. And you might even end up measuring your friends and families and taxi drivers as you have it with you. I can say many taxi drivers are actually very excellent drivers. And over to you, Willie.
Thanks, both of you, for sharing how you can build this to get an instant effect, and also how important it is to work with continuous improvements. And I can only put my name up there next to Misha. I can totally relate to that. And thanks also to you in the audience for posting questions and ideas on what could be distracting in the car. Please go in and vote for the questions that you want us to answer first. And if more questions come up, just put them in the Q&A. Now, let's move on to see how we can put this to use. What use cases have you discovered, Peter and Pernilla? And could you tell us some more about that? Over to you, Peter.
Sure, thanks, Elian. Yes, we have several different use cases, as you can see on the next slide here. We have chosen to talk more about 4 different. I'm sure we can find 4 more, who is excellent as well. But we'll dive into 4 of these. First, fleet, then younger drivers, then the insurance area, and the last one is the ride-hailing area. And when it comes to fleet, the fleet manager gets a tool that saves both money and lives. Who wouldn't like to have that kind of tool? Well, it saves money through a reduced number of accidents and lower consumption, and it saves lives through safer driving. With an operating cost being 50% of the total cost, the fleet of bad drivers can increase the cost with 13%, and the fleet of good drivers can reduce the figure by 12%. So if you're a fleet manager within a company, a large company, you might want to compare different groups towards each other and see who is really excellent in the smooth driving or who is excellent in controlling the speed in the right way. And if you're a fleet manager within a car rental company, you get the possibility to give discounts to good drivers. So it's a huge or many different good user stories that you can provide your customers with. If we look into younger drivers or new drivers, they're often eager to learn and they do mistakes. We know that the highest accident risk is the first 3 years. So this could really be an objective tool, objective coaching tool, a complement to driving school or to parent coaching. This doesn't replace the driving school, of course, but it's a good complement to it. And how about the insurance section, Pernilla?
Thank you, Peter. And possibly a bit cautiously, we've combined OEM insurance here, but I'll explain a little bit more why. And coming back to the earlier experiences, I talked about learning from more mature markets regarding the user-based insurance use case. What I think is most alarming or interesting is that they could see that low-risk drivers that are actually a clear building stone for many insurance companies, they will soon, when they realize that this opportunity exists, be expecting to be rewarded for their safe driving style. So what surveys have seen in the US that you could at least count with 15 to 40% lower premium rates when proving this in a good way. And another experience in clear figures is a 10% improved retention rate for customers. And what this says, which I think is extremely relevant for the OEM business, is the ability to have and build an individual communication platform with your customers. So I've heard about companies that are investing in these kind of solutions only for the cause of being able to start that dialogue with your end customers. That, of course, brings a lot to the brand recognition of the brand. It increases customer satisfaction and loyalty. And another interesting parameter, when in the way they gain, or you could gain money from this improved communication platform, is that by having a dialogue where you can clearly explain to your end user why the premium is raised or lowered, that makes it easier for and influence the customers to do their own fulfilling claims promptly and reducing administration and process costs in that way. Of course, for the end user, higher understanding of how you can influence your premium is positive, but you get the gain also on higher residual value and higher self-confidence as a driver. Coming to the last use case, which is possibly my favorite, because I haven't understood yet why not a single ride-hailing company that I have been checking in on have been using this fantastic opportunity. When I was at Move conference in London in February, just before the pandemic, it was flooding with ride-hailing companies and applications to measure things that are and could be valuable for a very mobile person out there. We now know that that reality do not really exist, and that it has been a big hit to that part of the ecosystem. But what's very interesting is that it's actually the insurance premiums as such, which makes it difficult for the ride-hailing companies and car-sharing companies to maintain and have a good business case. So why not then? For two reasons. One, for the ride-hailing company to be able to show that their drivers are driving better, than you can claim that you need to have lower premiums. But what's even more important, that you as an individual, myself, I didn't have, when I moved into the city, 7 years ago, I sold my car, and since then I've been happily using the Trust Economy's Airbnb services with clear indicators of how I'm performing. I've used all the carpools that exist. It's at least 3 or 4 applications on my mobile phone, and not one of them have actually tried to understand if I'm actually a good driver. And what I hear from insurance companies lately is that this is a single cause for them to, that it's a great prevention in their business case nowadays. New eco-friendly carpools have great difficulties in users not driving the vehicles safely. So I think it's evident must to look into these kind of services if you would like to service these companies in a good way. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Pernilla. So what you see now is a screenshot of a fleet manager portal. You don't need to look into the specific figures, but I just would like you to see how it could look like for a fleet manager when they compare different fleets towards each other. Upper corner to the left, you can see different campaigns. One campaign could be one fleet. One fleet of Berlin, for example, is compared to one fleet in Munich. And in the below, you can see the different subscores. So if your fleet in Berlin is really good at the focused area, or maybe the fleet in Munich need to work some on the speed area. So here you can see the different subscore and what's good and what's not so good. And if we move to the next slide, I will show you how it looks like for the drivers. So this is a screenshot for a driver. The screenshot to the left here, you can see the different trips the driver made. You can see where it starts, where it stops, and the safety score, the overall safety score for that particular trip. And if you click on that trip, you will see the screen to the right, where you can see the trail, you can see the different sub-scores. You can see if you would like to improve your safety score on this trip, what should you do? Drive more nicely, reduce the speed, and so on. So it's very directly to you. And of course, this is a white labeled solution, so it should be labeled with your brand, of course. Moving to the next slide. Starting to summarize the business value of the concept of driving behavior. I think we have discussed the most of this, but just to repeat, what we do is we reduce cost of ownership, we increase the driver's safety, we reduce the eco footprint of the fleet, and we enable driver score in the car sharing context. And I mentioned car rental company, it could be our other mobility providers, of course. And overall, we also increase the OEM's competitiveness in the market. Moving to you, I think, Pernilla.
Thank you. I was just reviewing all the interesting questions coming in, so I'm happy we have 15 minutes to continue with that. Thank you, Elin. I was the first one forgetting unmuting. I wasn't sure I took the bottom, but anyway, we're very happy. I was scrolling through all the questions coming in. Great that we have so many interesting questions. We'll make sure to answer them after just some finalizing slides. I would just, for the course of that we have been trying to identify what things we think we're doing differently. We can get the first bullet point here, just to highlight is the combination of strengths, the vehicle and the smartphone data, and that will actually answer some of the questions in the Q&A, and we will come to that further. It's also the user focus. It's an ability for the end user to use if we structure the service in that way, if you would like it in that way, we can structure the service for you to be able to use it also in other vehicles. So does even support a multimodal transportation setup, which could be very valuable in the future. We talk about the knowledge. It's not just a score of aggregated data. We've put in a great deal of effort and are continuously trying to improve the research-based scoring as such. So knowledge added to the solution. The next one, talking about awareness, and that we're continuously also understanding and trying to investigate what drives users, how can we improve it, and how we would like to award for improving your safe driving behavior. The next one, coaching, and that we have questions on. I can say that we have the answer to that question right now. We have a question on how could we actually coach. I've given you some examples of, I'm taking the liberty, Elin, to answer the question when I'm into the bullet point. And that is something that we're continuously working on. You've seen examples of concrete features that we have installed in the app right now. But the right combination we will develop together with you in accordance to what we think is the best coaching for each individual driving style. And I think that is not anything that I heard anyone in the market going that deep in the single component as coaching as such. There are many companies scoring, but they are not actually focusing on changing the behavior based on features that you as an individual can influence yourself. So that is a big strength in this solution. Last but not least, we have a number, of course, we have saved a number of goodies that we haven't showed you here today. So we have some material for continuous webinars. And if you would like to have a peek before, please contact me or Peter after this session. So we're building a platform for safe driving. It's not a score only, and we will continuously build in features for you to be and stay competitive in your marketplace. Over to yes, Elin. And now,
Peter, please, can you share the next steps?
Yes, thanks, Pernilla. Yeah, the next step, what should we do? My strongest recommendation is to test the demo app that Pernilla told us about. You will get it for free. If you would like to test it, just reach out to me or to Pernilla, and you will get the possibility to really test your driving behavior and try to match my score for 980 in average. I really recommend that. And after you have done that, I would recommend for us to do a jointly workshop together to find out how the solution should be the most beneficial for your company. And the step after that is to do a pilot with a couple of vehicles. So reach out to Pernilla or me in order to test that for free.
Thank you, both of you. Now it's time for all your questions, and I can see that a lot of questions have come in. So we'll try to get to as many as possible. Otherwise, we'll continue the discussion afterwards if you're interested in that. Please vote for the questions that you want us to answer first, so we don't miss out on those. Yes, the first question with the most votes is for you, Pernilla. How do you make sure that people are not simply bypassing the system? For example, to get lower insurance rates. At least with mobile phones, this could be easily faked. Do you have any input on that?
Yes, I do. That is for sure a very important question, and that is also the answer why some insurance company has chosen not to do an insurance-based setup with only the mobile phone so far. We do have you can connect it with Bluetooth and other setups, but that is a complicating factor, which we will solve now with the wireless car setup, that you can connect your the driver to the car.
Thank you. So moving on to the next question. I think this is for you, Peter. How do you get the data out of the vehicle?
Well, it's a different compares to different vehicles or a different solution, but it's always an integration either to the TCU or the ECU, the telematic unit within the vehicle, or it could also be to the car maker's back end, but it's always an integration.
Thanks for clarifying that. And over to you again, Pernilla, about Darcy. How smart is he or she? Is it the backbone for the coaching side of the project, or is it still just an extra? What do you say?
We would very much like it to be the backbone. It's not that yet, but we're working on it. Just now, it's something extra.
Thanks. So we'll probably see more of Darcy moving on then. And how does the WirelessCar Autoliv partnership plan to address vehicles that are older and do not have the latest connected vehicle technology installed by an OEM? There are many, many bad drivers using old vehicles on the roads. How do we reach those drivers? Any thoughts? Who wants to go first?
Well, I can just comment on that of course the vehicle that we connect here needs to be connected in some way, otherwise they are not in the scope for this solution.
Yeah, so we have a big job to connect cars then, if that's the starting point. Yes.
Sure.
How many % of the road accidents can be related to distractions? I think you mentioned that in the beginning, Pernilla, but can you please?
Yes, it's a good question, and it depends. What I've been seeing that the market is a little bit flooding with figures, and many of them are not research-based figures, and some companies tend to overstate, and you can see an article somewhere, and then you take the article as such as proof of that figure is the correct one. The figure that we can say is research-based is the one we have in the presentation. It's from American Statistical Entity, talking about 9 to 10% of accidents caused by distraction. And then one part of that 10% is caused by mobile phone usage. By that also saying that those figures are approximately 2 years old.
Thank you for clarifying. So let's see. Do you plan to have a developer platform so that third parties can develop their own apps using your capabilities? Is this something that you have discussed, Pernilla or Peter?
It's not on the backlog today, but it's good to know that there is interest of that, but we don't have it today.
So if you're interested in getting this in place, contact us and start up the discussion. Anything is possible. And what about GDPR? How is the data managed with the concern? Pernilla?
Yes, that is definitely something that we work a lot with, selling this service, I can say for sure. My learning is that you would need to keep legal in the loop from the early beginning when starting to discuss the service with this. As such, we let the end user give their consent about being able to use their personal data, and we also have a very clear mark on that part of that data is also able to be shared with third party. We have taken the secure way here from Sweden, where we're perspective, where we have a special approval from the Data Commission in both saving and storing a very complicated feature as speed, which could be a cause of a criminal offense, so that has special restrictions to it. So you need to be legally complete, you need to have that consent from the data commission to be able to store speed data. As so far, I've only heard about one other insurance company in Sweden that have that same approval as Autoliv has. And on top of getting the approval of storing speed data, we also have the approval of sharing some of that data to third-party insurance companies in regards of giving the user a benefit when sharing their privacy data with third party. So we're quite proud of that, and we can see that approval in itself is a good blueprint when discussing the same setup in different countries. So if it works in Sweden, it works in many other markets as well.
That's good to hear. Thank you for sharing that. I think we stay with you, Pernilla. If there is one aspect of the product that could use some improvement, what would that be? And what are we seeing moving forward with this setup?
Oh, I have so many things. Always.
Anyone you want to share?
I think the complete we need to learn. We need to learn from other apps and retail business, as we all learn to possibly shop a lot during this pandemic. I think we all have started to understand what kind of sites where we like the communication culture and the way they are approaching us, not too much, not too little, when to get reminders of different things in using, for example, a step application or other training application. We kind of get sensitive to when it's too little or too much. And I'm looking forward to understand how we can balance that communication and nudging as it is into this safety score in the very best way. So we're on our way, but that could be improved.
Thank you for sharing. Lots to do then, and lots of benefits to gain by doing it. So what are the biggest hurdles in getting acceptance to measure driver behavior? From OEM, fleet manager, driver perspective. Do you want to go for Peter? Over to you.
I think you really need to motivate why you should look into the driver behavior part. Of course, the obvious one is to save lives, but I read research a few days ago about the chances of being involved in an accident are 6 times higher in case of texting and driving than in drunk driving. So that's something to think about. Why are we doing this? Why is this important?
Okay, let's move on to, I think we can manage 2 more questions before we wrap this up. So please vote for the ones you want us to answer within this presentation. Do you believe that gamification or coaching has a higher impact on changing a driver's behavior? Pernilla, if you want to.
Yes, it has definitely a very big influence in changing. I think we possibly have overestimated the gamification part when developing solutions. I think some people are definitely getting encouraged by leaderboards and gamification. Some are definitely not. They need to be approached in completely different ways. And we have from our surveys understood much more about how that coaching could look like. And we have many interesting thoughts about how to implement those coaching perspectives in the solution forward.
Thank you. Final question then before we wrap it up. What car manufacturers have WirelessCar retrieved data from? And will it be possible to communicate with all manufacturers in the future? Peter, do you want to answer this?
Yes, thanks. Well, today we work together with car manufacturers as Volvo, Volkswagen, Jaguar, Land Rover, Nissan, In Daimler, we work with the fleet solution area. We work with Subaru. But you can't access the data in one spot. I mean, all the car data is owned by the car manufacturers. So there is not one place where you can connect to all the car data. But we have a lot of customers.
And in partnership with a car maker, that it might be accessible then.
Yes.
Thank you both for the presentations and for answering all these questions. And thank you in the audience for all your great questions and commitment. I'm afraid we can't answer them all, but please continue the dialogue with us afterwards if you want to explore the subject further. Before we wrap it up today, I just want to ask our two speakers what one thing they would want you to remember after this presentation. What is the most important takeaway? What do you say, Pernilla?
When I start off dialogues with new customer and prospects, I actually see that they're surprised about how quickly we can make this happen. We have during the years developed a very good onboarding process where we're really good at identifying and setting the right expectations and being clear on that we follow through with the goal of the project or the goals of the customer that we're working with. So I would say many are surprised that it goes that quickly. So why not just start doing it? And that is my conclusion. And I'd very much like you to summarize some of the distraction factors before we end, if that's possible.
Yeah, I saw there was a lot about children in the car. Unbuckle in backseat during the ride. That's a major distraction. Notifications from the phone. Let's see what else we have. Yes, also crying and fighting kids. And I mean, you're driving your kids to different locations, so yeah. So over to you, Peter. Final takeaway.
Yes, well, we have all seen the movement in the market from ownership to usership when it comes to owning a vehicle. And this solution, together with Autoliv, we are focusing on the ownership. This is a good tool in order to follow the vehicle. And I think I didn't say that clear enough earlier, that we can follow up both on drivers and on vehicles. Sometimes you're not so interested in the driver, but you would like to follow up the vehicles. So that's one angle of this. So I really would like to encourage you to test the app, and we take it from there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for great presentations. And if you want to continue the dialogue, you see the contact information here. I do recommend you to test the app to see what your own score is, for example, and to continue the dialogue with us after this presentation. Thank you all for today.